Adventure on Klee Island. Writer Tanuka Bhaumik Endo. Publisher National Book Trust, India. Story: Dr. Mykidos. The journey to Klee Island was exciting. Although all three were used to flying, they could not help experiencing a thrill when their plane flew quite low over the sparkling blue ocean towards a dark blob that they knew to be Klee Island. Aran has brought Kay along as well, since the robot had helped him out on many occasions earlier. Klee Island was small in size and only a handful of people lived there, rich people who preferred a secluded life. The children had booked a room in one of the few hotels on the island. Stopping there to leave their bags, they bathed and got ready to meet Dr. Mykidos. The cool breeze in this small island allowed the children to do without their protective heat suits, and they all heaved a sigh of relief. Lisha looked down at her sleeveless yellow cotton tunic, enjoying the change from her usual wear and feeling the breeze. Neil and Aran were dressed in shorts and sleeveless tunic tops. Having decided to leave Kay behind at the hotel, the three friends set out for their destination. There was greenery around them, something that had almost disappeared in the cities. Neil carried his small camera for the filming, and Aran fiddled with buttons on the computer attached to his wristwatch. As the attached liquid crystal display screen was released, he quickly glanced through the notes he had made there. The children learned that Dr. Mykidos had a vast experience with birds. She had published numerous research papers on various species of birds, and at one time used to be quite a public figure, attending seminars and conferences worldwide. She was unmarried, preferring to devote her life to the cause of scientific research, and had collected many rare species of birds from her visits around the globe. But since the last few years, Dr. Elena Mykidos had withdrawn herself from public life and lived quietly in her mansion on Klee Island. Lisha, Neil, and Aran were quite awestruck when they had their first glimpse of the huge mansion. Behind imposing steel gates, it rose like a graceful white flower at the end of a curving driveway. The house was surrounded by a vast expanse of grounds, where, even from this distance, the children could see many huge, semi-transparent domes, filled with what looked like hundreds of birds. But no human or robot could be seen there. As the children hovered at the gates, wondering how to enter into the premises, they heard some voice. "Please state your business." All three looked around, but could not see anyone. "Must be a hidden speaker somewhere," commented Aran in a low voice. He raised his voice. "We have come to interview Dr. Mykidos for our school project. She asked us to come today. Can I have your names, please?" "Lisha, Neil, and Aran." After a minute or so, the gate swung open silently and the voice announced, "Welcome to Dr. Elena Mykidos' residence. Dr. Mykidos will receive you in the green room." The green room was, as expected, furnished in green color with a soothing effect on the eye. The children noticed that the use of metals was not as extensive here, as in the cities. An old lady was sitting behind a low table and rose as they entered the room. "Hello, I'm Dr. Elena Mikedos," she said, joining her palms in greeting. "You are the children from the Celeria State School?" The three friends returned her greetings, and Lisha spoke for the group as they sat down on the mats placed in front of the table. "Hello, Dr. Mikedos. It's wonderful to be able to meet you. I'm Lisha, and this is my friend Aran and my brother Neil." Dr. Elena Mikedos was dressed in a pale beige dress, and her white hair was cropped short. Keeping her face grim, she said, "You can call me Elena. Now please tell me what you would like to know, but remember to keep it brief. I have very little time to spare." Aran started off with some questions about some of the birds he knew that Dr. Mikedos also had in her private collection. She seemed pleased and her tone softened slightly. "Oh, the peregrine falcon. They are some of the fastest known birds. Yes, I do have a few in my private collection. The last of the species, actually." "Could we have a look, Dr. Mick? I mean, Elena?" The question came from Neil. Why not? After the interview, all three of you can visit the premises and take a few shots. You won't get to see these birds anywhere else on the earth. "But Elena, this brings me to my most important question," Aran broke in. "Why have birds almost disappeared from the face of the earth? Why didn't the government try to preserve some species?" Dr. Mikedos' face was grave as she replied to Aran's question. "You must be aware of that initially, after the 2030s, as the cities spread all over the earth. The number of birds steadily declined because there was a scarcity of food scraps in the cities to feed on. Next came the deadly bird flu, which wiped out millions of birds at a go. All the while we had been cutting more and more trees to house more and more people. Slowly, and indeed, many other animals and only a few species survived in small pockets, mostly in artificially controlled environment." The children were surprised by the scientist's answer. "What about the government?" persisted Aran. "Why haven't they bothered about these beautiful creatures?" "The government must carry out its expansion plans and needs its resources for many important projects to maintain its military power." Lisha could not believe her ears. There was a passionate outburst from her. "But Elena, surely preserving different species of birds and other animals should have been one of the government's priorities. The earth is not just a cluster of buildings and roads and bridges and flyovers. We should not have allowed it to become the ugly concrete jungle that has become today." "Last question, please." Dr. Elena Mikedos' crisp voice cut across Lisha's outburst. Aran spoke up. "What will happen to your private collection of birds when you are no longer there?" "It will be taken over by the government. And now, if you come through this side door, I'll show you my collection of birds." The children had already caught a glimpse of the massive domes from the gates, where many exotic birds seemed to be sitting on trees or were flying around from branch to branch. They were quite excited at the thought of getting a close look at many rare birds. They stepped back as Elena approached the side door, but the scientist still brushed very close to them as she walked out and beckoned the three children to follow her. Suddenly, a mechanical voice called out, "Dr. Mikados, the interview is over. The visitors can leave now." Startled, the children turned around to see that a large-sized robot had appeared from another doorway of the green room. Glistening black in color, the sleek robot had bright red eyes, and its mechanical arm was extended towards Elena in a cautionary manner. Elena, too, had stopped in her tracks, and as she wheeled around, the three friends saw a dramatic change in her expression. There was fear in her eyes as she quickened her steps and came into the room once more. Of course. Why are you going outside? You should know that visitors are not allowed in the garden," she said in a trembling voice. The three friends looked at each other, speechless. They were well aware that Dr. Mikados was going back on her words, but could hardly point that out. Under the watchful eyes of the robot, the visitors left Mikados' residence. Once outside the fortress-type steel gates, they all broke out into speech. "What happened?" cried Neil. "Did I hear her correctly? It was Elena who invited us for filming the birds. Such a great scientist going back on her words." Lisha, too, was agitated. "Calm down, guys," said Aran. "It's a puzzle. Couldn't you see she was scared of that robot? That's what made her change her mind." "That's true," said Lisha thoughtfully. "But why do you think she was so scared?" "I think the robot has some sort of power over her," Neil concluded, as they reached their hotel. "Well, quite a wasted trip, I must say. We didn't get much out of it." The three friends camped down on Lisha's bed in her room, their expression down as Kay came from Aran's room and joined the meeting. "Let's get the famous palm fruit juice that they have here," Neil suggested, not one to feel dispirited for long. "Yeah, let's," chorused the other two. Lisha fished in her pocket for money and brought out some strange object along with a fistful of currency. "Hey, what's this? Where did this come from?" Lisha was confused. Everyone looked up, startled, and started examining the small, round, black object in her palm. "Let me take a look at it." Aran sounded excited as he took the black thing in his hand. Brother and sister duo looked hopefully at Aran, since they knew that this stout boy was quite a storehouse of information about all kinds of gadgets. "I think this is a small tape disc. A new kind of player has come in the market, which can play these discs." "Well," cried Neil impatiently, "do you have such a player?" "I think I do," replied Aran, lost in thought, as he rummaged among his bags. Kay helped and told him, "You have the player in the bottom right pocket of your bag." Putting the disc into the player, the children were stunned to hear Dr. Mikados' voice speaking in a whisper.